Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. It's really great to see so many wonderful people in the room here and to know that there are so many fantastic people online. Welcome to everybody who's with us today. I see some good friends, Jim Sims, Dick McCaig, Raja Dawi, Phil Eskew, so many wonderful people online. So great to see you all. My name, for those of you who are our guests, is Alain Barker. I'm the president of the Bloomington Rotary Club this year. And today is November 29th. I got a 2015, I got November 15th here, but that doesn't make any sense. So it is the 29th, I promise you. It is our 22nd week of the year together as we go through this voyage together. And, I hope that you all had a really fabulous Thanksgiving. What a wonderful week it was for me to be with my two daughters and for us to just hang out and watch the soccer and have good food and catch up with a lot of different things. And luckily we'll be able to see them again in 3 weeks. So that's a real blessing. I didn't know this, some things become ubiquitous in the world without us realizing how recently they became a reality in our lives. Giving Tuesday, something which is now sort of baked into our culture, into our life, into our society, only started in 2012. I had no idea. Obviously, I was unaware of that. And it was started by somebody by the name of Henry Timms, the 92nd Y in New York. And with the co-founding organization was the United Nations Foundation with support from an organization called BLK-SHP, otherwise known as Black Sheep. And it's an organization that supports artists. So I was interested to just sort of have this intermingling of the arts, giving, and this celebration now that has become ubiquitous around the world. Some of my South African friends have been talking about Giving Tuesday. So what an amazing thing it is. Since then, it's become a global generosity movement, unleashing the power of people and organizations to transform their communities and the world. Working in many ways that parallel Rotary's service above self, the concept behind Giving Tuesday is radical generosity, giving of all kinds, where suffering of others should be as intolerable as to us as our own suffering. Giving Tuesday reimagines a world built on shared humanity and generosity. So as my family and I discuss our giving this year, lots of requests have come through the mail recently. I'm sure that you've all got them too. We've been very grateful for the power of the Rotary International Foundation's programs, including the Paul Harris Fellowships, as well as our own wonderful Bloomington Rotary Club Foundation. So as you think about your giving, just think about Rotary and how much Rotary makes a difference in this world. Right, so we have birthdays to celebrate. We have two birthdays today. We have Jerry Pajak, November 30th, tomorrow, and Jeff Richardson, likewise, tomorrow. Happy birthday to both of them. Member anniversaries, I want to just go through this as well, because when I had a look at the DACDB database, I couldn't believe how many names suddenly came out. There were like 15 names that were celebrated this week. And I realized after having a conversation with Natalie that it has a lot to do with our organization members. We have a number of organization memberships to celebrate today. Old National, Baird, the Community Foundation in Bloomington and Monroe, NAACP, and Wonderlab. They all joined at the same time of the year. So congratulations to all of them. And that means that for each of those organizations, there are up to 4 members of those organizations who are part of our club that we so appreciate and cherish as we build what we do together. Other anniversaries to celebrate are, and these are big numbers, guys, Kay Leach, 34 years, Brian Price, 32, Michael Shermis, 11, and Scott Walters, 34. Congratulations to them all. Okay, Megan Gerhardt, she's going to join me to introduce our guest today.
So today we have 4 guests, and Natalie informed me that I do have to introduce myself. So hi, my name is Megan Gerhardt. I am the past president of Rotaract. We also have 2 guests of Jim Bright, Brian Tomlinson. I apologize if I messed up your name, and John Miller, who is the current president of Rotaract. And then we have a soon to be inducted member, Michelle Cohen, who is also joining us today.
so great to have the Rotaractors here with us as well. So, and John and I are going to be having a conversation with a group who's going to be having a conversation this evening about them taking on one of our meetings early next year. So that'll be interesting to see. Okay, Joy, do we have any guests online?
Alon, we do not, just us Rotarians.
Okay, good, good, good. Well, it's great to have you all with us. Sometimes when we're in this room here, I have to be mindful of the fact that so many wonderful people are online as well. Okay, Tracy Jovanovic. Now, I should mention, Tracy is one of, get it, we have another 2 member applications, 20 new members since the beginning of the year. So Tracy is one of our great members.
Thank you, Alon. I thought I would continue with last week's theme of thankfulness, especially with Thanksgiving last week. And most of you know Gil Sousa. He was a Rotarian here, I think, everybody. Well, we had invited Gil to have Thanksgiving with us back in the summer, and he accepted. And so my husband is Serbian. And for those of you, anybody here watch World Cup soccer? Thursday, Thanksgiving, Brazil played Serbia at 2 o'clock. So our dinner was a little delayed. And one person was happy eating and a few others were not. But having said that, I thought I would take a twist on thankfulness about World Cup because there's over 1 billion people that watch that. And when you think of 1 billion people, what's the opportunity? What's the impact? And what is the chatter? And when I thought about that, the chatter really has been change because for those of you that have been watching for years, you played World Cup June and July, and it went to Qatar. So they had to make a big change. And that was quite controversial. In addition to that, it went into UAE, United Arab Emirates, and there was a lot of controversy around that, as you can imagine. The other thing that I thought about besides change, and more importantly to me, was the DEI. I always say D and I, you have to have the E now to be inclusive. But when you think about World Cup, there's usually the perennial winners that are out there. It's Europe, or South Africa or South America. Sorry, almost gave you credit. Almost gave you credit. But those are the perennial winners. And for those of you who've been watching, it has been unbelievably exciting and a total leveling of the playing field. And this is phenomenal because it helps us come together as a world. It helps us ask additional questions and seek to understand other cultures. So some of those changes that have happened, Saudi Arabia stunned Argentina. That was unbelievable. You had Morocco beat Belgium. Again, shocking. Iran defeated Wales. We have our battle today. But these are seeing new people, new players coming in and making the world a stronger and better place. And so it's exciting to see amid all the controversy, there's a lot of goodness that comes out of it as well. One other point I'll bring up, it was interesting. One of the games was played, several of them been played in Education City Stadium. And I looked at that, and this is going to show my bias. I looked at it and I thought, well, that's a little bit of an oxymoron. Education City in Qatar, they don't educate women. And then I said, something was in the back of my head saying, I'm not so sure that's true. So I looked it up. And in fact, in Qatar, over the age of 25, over 66% of the women are educated. Now, there's more to come, but I share that because as we watch the World Cup, we all have biases, and hopefully each one of us, because there's 1 billion people watching this, hopefully each one of us just try to validate and learn something new about the countries that are playing. So why be thankful? Change is hard, but inevitable. And sometimes I believe it leads to good. Sometimes it takes a little longer than others. And while Qatar may be a shocking selection with a lot of scandal, the beauty of the games this year and the dynamics of the winners and losers and the sportsmanship, seeing strong representation across all the cultures working and enjoying themselves, some more than others, is encouraging, especially during the times of change that we're seeing now. So that's what I'm thankful for.
Thank you, Tracy. One thing that there's so many wonderful things that have come out of the World Cup so far, and there are controversies and there are issues, but it just goes in so many different directions. One of the things that I just want to mention that I love watching is at the end of the game, very often the players from two different sides who actually know each other from playing on teams around the world are best of buddies, and that's just very special. Okay. By the way, for those of you who are new to this club, and if you want to follow in Tracy's footsteps and come up to the podium and speak your mind and share one of your reflections, please feel free to do so. I see a few of them in the room here, and I won't look at you, but anyway. Okay, so if anybody has anything that they would like to share, this is a wonderful place to do so. So thank you once again, Tracy. We have a very special moment here with a new member. So I'm going to invite Tim Riffle and Steve Moberly and Teresa Clare to join me at the podium.
Tim Riffle recently relocated to Bloomington following a 40-year career with the law firm of Barnes & Thornburg in Indianapolis. At Barnes, Tim was an equity partner and practiced in the areas of tax, estate planning, probate administration, and mergers and acquisitions. Tim is a 1980 graduate of Indiana University Bloomington and a 1983 magna cum laude graduate of Indiana University Maurer School of Law. Tim grew up in Van Wert, Ohio, where he was an Eagle Scout and junior Rotarian. Tim served as a page in the U.S. House of Representatives prior to his student days at Indiana University. Indiana University remains Tim's principal passion. He is a season ticket holder for IU football, baseball, and men's basketball, and a member of the IU varsity club's Hoosier 100. He is also a recipient of the Indiana University Bicentennial Medal and a Maurer School of Law Distinguished Service Award. Tim supports the IU Foundation as a member of its President's Circle, Wellhouse Society, and Arbitus Society. Tim currently serves as the Maurer School of Law as an adjunct professor teaching corporate taxation. Prior to his teaching stint, Tim was a member of the Maurer School of Law's Alumni Board. Tim is a new member of Christ Community Church in Bloomington, where he sings in the choir. Tim and his wife, Sarah, have 2 children, Mark and Madeline, both IU alumni, and 2 grandchildren. Tim is sponsored for membership by Steve Moberly. Tim, on behalf of the board and membership of Bloomington Rotary Club, it is a great pleasure to welcome you as the newest member of our club. We look forward to the fellowship that you will share, as well as your participation in many club projects that will make our community, country, and world a better place. Though Rotary is not a political organization, Rotarians are vitally concerned with good citizenship and the election of strong leaders to public office. While Rotary is not a religious organization, it is built on those eternal principles that have served as a moral compass for people throughout the ages. Rotary is an organization of business and professional people pledged to uphold the highest ethical and moral standards. Rotarians believe that worldwide fellowship and peace can be achieved when people unite with the Rotary motto, service above self. Rotary activities exemplify the charity and sacrifice that one would expect from people who believe that they have a responsibility to help others. Tim, you have been chosen for membership in the Bloomington Rotary Club because your fellow members believe you to be a leader in our community. And because you possess the qualities to champion the message and principles of Rotary. You are a representative of your vocation within our club and community. You now become an ambassador of Bloomington Rotary, carrying the ideals of service to all within your sphere of influence. Our community will know and judge Rotary by your character and service. We also look to you for inspiration as we strive to become better Rotarians. We will now pin you with the distinguished badge of a Rotarian. Tim, we ask that you wear your Rotary pin with pride, not only to all Rotary functions, but in your many endeavors. As a symbol of your commitment to Rotary ideals and our recognition of your contribution towards a better world. Fellow Rotarians, please rise and welcome our newest Rotarian, Tim Rifle.
Ripple.
Wonderful, wonderful. Congratulations, Tim, and thank you very much, Teresa Claire. And you've got a wonderful voice, by the way, Teresa, and maybe you should be on our podcast or something like that. Okay, moving on here. Club updates. We have a few club updates to share. We are T-9 for our celebration next Thursday. So for those of you who have yet to sign up, who would like to join us, please, there is some space. But we've got a really good number. I think that it'll be a really wonderful, wonderful, well-attended event. So I'm very much looking forward to that. We have Jeff McKim and his wife, Janet, in our thoughts. We recently received word that Janet's father, Dick Cornell, passed away. Amy, is it Amy? Amy, my apologies. So we're sorry that her father passed away. I just want to remind you also about the two programs that we spoke about last week, the Zero in Bloomington program, which we gave you some information about last week. There are a few questions that we actually have for the city of Bloomington that we're clearing up. And then I'm going to be sending out another email to you about how to get involved, because we want to be sure that we know who's signing up on the city website, and so that we can track it as a club. So that's just a few questions out there. I've been very grateful for the 6 members of this club who took time to fill out the SWOT analysis. There's been some really great ideas that have come through. I'm going to urge you once again all to get involved in that conversation and let me know what you think about where we are as a club in terms of the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that are with us. Really, really a fascinating read, and I look forward to hearing from more of you. I want to thank Sarah Laughlin so much for doing the Friendsgiving for our refugee family on Saturday. That was a really, really wonderful event. It was great to see some of you there. Michael Shermis is going to come up to the podium in a second. And as he comes up, I just want to mention that huge congratulations to Connie Shakalis for having written such extraordinary information in the Herald Times over the past, how many years? 5.5 years. And blow me down, the Herald Times decided to cut Connie and all the other freelance writers away from their ranks, including Tim Jessen, who's such a fabulous writer, doing such incredible things. So first of all, congratulations to both of you. And secondly, what is going on at the Herald Times? We really wanted to know that. So for those of you who have any contact with the Herald Times, please urge them to bring these 2 wonderful people back into their ranks to help share about what's really going on in Bloomington. So Connie, thank you very much for all of your writing. Okay, Michael Sherman.
So first of all, I get a lot of kudos on the programs as the program committee chair, but it's really the program committee that does the work. And while I do come up with an occasional program, it is they who make the suggestions for speakers. What I do is organize, and there is a fair amount of work on that, but I believe it's all worth it due to us making us look, professional, and speakers appreciating the opportunity to speak in front of us, and the reputation that we have in the community. And how do we know that we have a good reputation? Well, one way is that almost everybody that's asked to speak says yes. So that's a nice sign. So let me do a formal thanks and ask the following members of the program committee to stand and take a bow: Leslie Green, Lynn Schwartzberg, Jim Shea, Charlotte Zitlow, Jim Bright, Connie Shakalis, Bill Brown, Judy Schroeder, Ruth Boschkoff, Jeff McKim, Teresa Claire, Sally Gaskell, and Rex Hillary. Thank you all. Second, while you get to see 5 weeks in the roundabout of who are our upcoming speakers, we actually need to be about 3 to 4 months out in securing commitments and lining up our speakers. While nothing is set in stone, evidence for which was recently when somebody had to drop out at the last minute and we had to slot somebody in just a day or two. Let me tell you some of the upcoming speakers with the idea that it's not set in stone, but in December, next week, Joseph McDonnell, he is at the FBI, and having had a chance to talk to him, this is going to be pretty interesting. No recording, no Zoom, no photos. Also in December, we get a chance to, yeah, and anybody on Zoom who knows that, yeah, no Zoom next week. So if you can make it in person, please do. Also in December, Sherry Treadway from Life Designs will be there. So the Life Designs got the Toast check and a recipient of the Toast award. And so they're going to explain more about what they do. So that'll be nice to hear from them. In January, we'll have one of our own, Kate Cruikshank, giving us a peek into the Bloomington Rotary Club archives. Of course, we're going to have the Rotaractors do a club assembly in January as well. There'll be somebody from the Kinsey Institute, Justin Garcia. Another one of our own, Bryce Bauer, will be doing a thing on blockchains, and I know nothing about it, but his conversation, that was pretty interesting. So I'm looking forward to that. Also, you ever wonder how somebody gets to be on all of the buses in town? Yep, Ken Nunn is going to come talk about creating a billion-dollar law firm. In February, we have Kurt Messick. He's going to talk to us about the James Webb Space Telescope photo and other astronomy issues. We also have our Exodus family. Exodus is going to come and talk, as well as our refugee family is going to come to that on the middle of February. Wonder about Cook? Well, come hear the CEO and President Pete Youngman talk. And finally, in February, Katie Borner, who is getting to be world famous about mapping science and envisioning science, was going to come. In March, we're going to have Will Cook, who's the author of Canary in the Coal Mine, a book that we did for a book club. And finally, in April, Katie Pilichowski, an IU astronomy professor, is going to come and talk about the next year's eclipse. And so that ought to be really interesting because they're going to preview it and tell us what to expect. Finally, there's an opportunity to continue to provide suggestions for speakers. We can't take them all, but we do entertain them all. Just send them to me over an email so I can add the name to a list of potential speakers in our program committees consider. So thank you very much for the opportunity to tell you that.
Thank you, Michael. I don't know if there's a Rotary Club in the world that can match the sort of programs that we have. It's just absolutely incredible. Congratulations to Michael and the entire committee for such stellar work. I love the idea of planning out until March, because I know that the crocuses will be coming up then as well. And I look very much forward to that. Okay, well, I think it's time for us to move along here with our guest speaker today. So I'm going to invite Bill Brown to come to the podium and introduce our guest. Thank you.
It is my honor to introduce Dr. James Farmer, and you'll find out that he's been aptly named for his work. Dr. Farmer is a product of Indiana University as an undergrad, as master's degree, and his doctorate, all from good old IU. And Dr. James Farmer is a sustainable behavior and decision-making researcher with interest in community food systems and sustainable agriculture. He focuses on individuals' choice making that lead to sustainable resource usage, such as farmers' adoption of organic management practices and farmer adaptation in response to climate change. Farmer directs the IU Food Institute and the Sustainable Food Systems Science Research Program, as well as co-directs the IU Campus Farm. His interdisciplinary and applied approaches have him collaborating with scholars from biology to anthropology and professionals such as farmers and food advocates. So here with a little food for thought, Dr. James Farmer.
So I've gotten a few jokes, if you can imagine, over the years. Students ask me if I changed my name, and I'm actually was born with the name. It's a pleasure to be here. I've walked, as Bill said, I did a lot of my all of my coursework here at IU. So I walked these halls at the Union many times, seeing the Rotary lunches. I always wondered what it took to get in here, but it's really nice to meet you all, and it's a pleasure to be invited. It's an honor to be invited. And the talk today is, if you can imagine, about food issues. But what I wanted to talk about is Food and agriculture at IU, a liberal arts approach to food systems. The title is somewhat fitting, I guess, because I did change it, change the presentation as I was started to build it, to really outline sort of the intricacies of food systems and how it involves the many disciplines that we find at IU, as well as, what is the connection between that and Rotary. So if you'll bear with me, I know I'll stumble along a little bit today, but hopefully we have a good time for questions here at the end, and hopefully you get something out of this. So thank you again for having me, and look forward to doing this. Okay, so just a little bit about my background. There's my family. Actually, last week, there's my kiddos and my partner, my spouse, and there as well, Sarah. But I'm a teacher, I'm a parent, I'm a researcher, I'm a community member. I live in the eastern part of the county. I farm on the side. We have dairy cows, dairy goats. We raise pigs. We raise we have produce. We raise winter squash, pumpkins, hay, and planted Christmas trees last year. So hopefully have those in like 9 years. And it takes a while. And I guess last but not least, I'm a Hoosier. I was born and raised in Wayne County, Indiana. So I guess I didn't stray too far from home. So when it comes to food systems, there's a lot. Well, first off, there's a lot of great puns, but secondly, there's a lot of great quotes about it. And these are two that I think are really important to think about. Is first off, no one sits down to eat a plate of nutrients. So food, even though it's what nourishes us and gets us from day to day and gives us our energy, there's so much more to food. We talk about Thanksgiving and being with family and the sporting events, but not to mention all the ceremonies in life and the food that goes along with it, the traditions that exist because of food. And secondly, from Fannie Lou Hamer, who was a civil rights advocate, she said, "Food allows the sick one a chance for healing, the silent ones a chance to speak, the unlearned ones a chance to learn, and the dying ones a chance to live." Fannie Lou Hamer was a major force within the civil rights movement, and really it was about securing African Americans farm ground and a place to, and this is her ag side, but a place to grow their own food, because she believed if you have access to food, you have access to security in life. And she did a lot of her work in Mississippi in the Freedom Farmers movement, and it's somebody that I think you all would be interested in. So why a liberal arts approach to food? Everybody says, well, why are you doing this at IU? Purdue's got it covered. Well, Purdue does a lot of great things, but I always say, we can't ask them to do everything about food. That's unfair to ask Purdue to do everything. But a lot of colleges in Indiana tackle this. Huntington University up north, Earlham College has a student farm, DePaul University. So this is not just something that land grants tackle. It's something that many institutions tackle. And a food system, if you can imagine, it's not a food web, it's not a food chain, it's a food system. It's highly intricate. We have everything from political regimes and economic systems that fall in here. Obviously, the biological, there's health aspects, there's social aspects. And so it takes all parts of society to make a food system work. It's a web of connected activities, resource, people that extend 24 hours a day and now around the entire globe. And so we'll come back to this diagram every few slides to sort of connect with that. But just I want you to imagine that. And so when we think about some major issues like water and sanitation, I can point to issues when flooding occurs after hurricanes in North Carolina, which is the largest pork producer in the nation. And there you see the pigs on top of a barn because that's the only space they had left. You also see lagoons overflowing and that wastewater getting into the system. You see cattle here, not during a flood activity, but when people don't fence their cattle out of streams, that leads to Gulf hypoxia, when we have nutrients overloading, through the rivers, through the watersheds, into the Gulf of Mexico. And we have a dead zone the size of Delaware, just outside of Louisiana. So water and sanitation is a very important aspect. And we get to this through environmental health, through policy, through like SPIA and public affairs, and through environmental science and biology, et cetera. We tackle this through a multitude of lenses at Indiana University. And this, jumping too quick here, and this falls back to that food system, into that agriculture, that land, the soil, the groundwater, that section right in the center. When it comes to economic and community development, if the economists, who are much smarter than myself, will calculate that if you buy food locally, that money gets spent 3 times over in the local economy. Now, what percentage of Indiana's food is actually grown in Indiana? The food that we eat as Hoosiers, what percentage do you think is actually produced here? Any guesses? 10. Who said that? Thank you. 10%, give or take 10%. We spend $14.5 billion on food. So if we increase that number by 1%, we're increasing $145 billion more into the state's economy. So we don't have to increase it much, just 1%. And it's a major impact on not just the farms, but then the retailers and our access in building our own food security. The picture in the upper right is a picture from Soul Fire Farm. When we think about community development, it's a farm in upstate New York that was started to educate African Americans and focus on African American African American community building around agriculture. And so Soul Fire Farm has been leading the way and really been part of a cultural revolution in the conversation around food system development and community development in the sector. So if we look into the different disciplines, again, we got business, we got economics, public affairs. I might be biased because I'm in SPIA. You're gonna see public affairs and everything. Political science, geography, sociology. These are all aspects that come up in our conversations through these different lenses. And so here we go. We've covered the agricultural sector. We've covered the economic system. And then when we think about community development, like the Soul Fire Farm, we see the social system there at the bottom being incorporated. So we're hitting it. Maternal and child health. These are some staggering numbers thinking about in Indiana, 1 in 7 children face hunger and 46.3% of children of households receiving SNAP benefits actually have children in them. If we think about the connection between food security, nutrition, and then maternal and child health, it's absolutely imperative that we fund systems and we have systems in place to support those in need. And maternal and child health, because about 25% of Indiana households are households with single moms. And so that's a group that absolutely needs support and utilizes SNAP benefits, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, uses WIC benefits, as well as others to create food security for their households. Here we have nutrition, applied health science, the health administration, and sociology. These are all different disciplines that tackle these issues, that work to solve these problems and to make life better for people. And so we've got our health system now we're including in this diagram. When it comes to supporting the environment, in the lower left-hand picture, that's a picture from the IU campus farm. How many of you know we have a campus farm? Okay, that's better than most. Thank you. And then you see the ryegrass growing, which is a cover crop, which works to keep nutrients in place, which keeps soil here and out of the Gulf of Mexico. So a lot of farmers are adapting the usage of cover crops thanks to the USDA's programs and supporting cost share with large scale and small scale farmers. But if we look at greenhouse gas emissions when it comes to the food supply chain, sort of the lower you eat lower you eat on the scale, which is down. I don't know if you can read that, but we have citrus, we have apples, we have root vegetables, bananas, peas, there's soy milk. The less greenhouse gas emissions that are going into the atmosphere, and thinking about the reduction of greenhouse gases for climate change impacts. So these are all very much interconnected pieces when we think about what food options we have, what choices we make. But a lot of times it's not about a choice. It's like what options are actually presented to us and for us. We had a choice between what was going on here, which was a lovely meal, but at the same time, it was presented to us. But we actually have a lot of privilege because we're here engaged in these sorts of opportunities. So here we bring in environmental management, environmental science, environmental health, which is in the School of Public Health, biology, chemistry, geography, anthropology, sustainability studies, bless you. As you can see, we're hitting all this stuff at IU. And now our diagram on food systems, you're seeing it all link a little bit closer together. Basic education and literacy. Now, apologies for the graininess of the slide, but food literacy, knowing where to get food, knowing what to do with food, knowing what food is nutritious are not just givens. It's not inherent knowledge if we do not communicate this, if we do not teach this. So I would argue that food literacy is also part of basic education and literacy that goes hand in hand. And we do this through the School of Ed. We do this through nutrition science and health science. And we do this through the research going on in the psychological and brain science group over across 10th Street. So here we go. We're adding more to this. We got food literacy right in the center of our diagram, and we're connecting all the major dots. Disease prevention and treatment is a critical piece to food. And particularly when you look at Western nations, when many of the diseases are preventable and many of them are tied to food. So beyond tobacco usage in Indiana, the next main cause of what this refers to, food is the number 2 cause of Indiana's disabilities. What I mean by disabilities is quality of life effects. So increased mortality or shortened lifespans or decreased quality of life when you age over the lifespan. So our number 2 cause of health issues is related to our diets. So again, it goes back to our basic food literacy and our options. Because even if we know what to do, we might not have the choice in doing that. There are programs, there are nutrition programs, there's new programs coming up with like food is medicine. There's a conference on December 1st being held in Indianapolis on food is medicine. So there's more and more people looking to food and what we can do with our diets in order to work on our health. So here we go. We got public health, we got nutrition science, health science, medicine, microbiology, and chemistry. This all fits together. I'm not saying we're going to cover everything at a liberal arts institution, but I see that we're covering a lot. Peace and conflict prevention and resolution. Now, I was meeting with a grad student yesterday who went to the annual geography conference the week before Thanksgiving, and he got to sit in on a talk by a retired general and member of the CIA. And what was interesting, he said, was the general talked about how in order to understand where conflicts are going to occur next year, they look at where food crises are happening this year. And so that's going to tell them where things are happening. So based on that, I pulled up these maps and I wanted to look at, where's the world at war in 2022? And then looking at where the hot spots for food insecurity and for famines. And as you can tell, there's a lot of overlap between the two. And so this is something that I was intrigued by in the conversation about how food and food security or insecurity also lead to world conflicts and obviously struggles. Thinking about the Arab Spring, what happened right before the Arab Spring, there was major inflation in food costs, there was major food shortages, and that was part of that conversation. So here we have political science, global studies, public affairs, history, sociology, and obviously law comes into this as well. So we've covered all the major aspects of the food system by looking at these 7 pillars. And these 7 pillars are exactly what Rotary is focused on. So I didn't know much about what Rotary was. And as soon as I went to the Rotary International website, and then I went to the Bloomington website, I saw this come up over and over. And I was like, this is going to be what my talk is about. Because every single one of these items, food systems, and agriculture are woven, is the common thread that I look at and I see. And obviously we all have our common threads that we can see here. But I would just argue what you're doing and the critical work you're doing is very much related to food. And so if we're thinking more about what we're doing at IU, we have in the upper left-hand corner, we have people doing research on nut and fruit growers here in the state of Indiana, a place that's not well known for fruit and nut production, but it's becoming more and more of a viable industry. We have people doing research on the history of Black farmers, which the height of Black farmers in Indiana was about 1920, and it's been decreasing since that point in time. We have students and faculty members doing research on food security in Zambia that's shown in the lower left-hand corner, looking at how farmers are doing work and how farmers are choosing different seed types to plant and dealing with climate change ramifications. We got people writing books on local food systems, and we have folks studying the vanilla trade in Madagascar, which is a picture in the lower right-hand corner, Sarah Osterhout from anthropology. But we have many people going well beyond this. People in the nutrition sciences looking at how food access and food security, people that they're studying how SNAP benefits are actually calculated, and if it's enough for women to get the health benefits that they need from the food choices they have based on SNAP, And newsflash, it's not. And so women are given more money than men based upon the calculation. I'm sorry, men are given more money than women based upon the calculations. It doesn't take into account that 99% of indigenous people in this country cannot process dairy products because they are not Northern Europeans and therefore they did not evolve to drink milk. So that's things that's because of the research done at IU, we have more information going into this conversation that we can hopefully, shed light on these really important topics. We have the Food Institute, where we bring in students and we bring in faculty members and we engage people. Anything from a pizza party, that lower right-hand corner, we ended up with 120 students that came to a pizza party, and we've got these outdoor pizza ovens, and we're out on the sidewalk making pizzas and using the ovens, and we pack people in. And the bottom picture is a student group called Fed IU, Food Education at IU. And this was taken, they're like, hey, can we use the Food Institute to do a program? I'm like, yeah, remember, you can only have like 14 people there. This is in the height of COVID. And then I see this pop up on Instagram. I was like, oh my God. I was like, I'm going to get fired. I was like, all these students in there, but it worked out well. And I think only half got COVID. The Food Institute started by Carl Ipsen helped start the Emergency Field Project, which was work done with the residential dining services to take and transition with a lot of the food that IU had. It started when COVID first happened, everything shut down, the students went away at spring break. IU had tens of thousands of dollars worth of food that was going to go bad. So they turned it into food that people could actually have and get to and access, people that were food insecure. And that program still exists and it still happens across the different breaks. We have scholars coming in talking about the queering of food systems and how queer farmers experience different setbacks and different challenges. We've got a speaker coming in on December 1st that does study abroad and teaches study abroad in food and media. She's an IU alum. She's coming from the University of Wisconsin down to talk. So the Food Institute's got a lot of different activities. It is in the College of Arts and Sciences, and so it really embraces the liberal arts experience. We have the IU Campus Farm, which has started about 5 years ago. And our focus has been on educating students, growing food and growing knowledge. And so we have high tunnels, which are donated by generous alumni. We have students working out at the farm during the summer. That the picture with the cows, the first fall of COVID, I couldn't take students to farms. And so I actually brought my cows to the campus farm because it was the period that I wanted to study grazing. I'm like, well, if I can't take you to cows, I'm going to bring cows to you. And so it's really interesting. If you've ever watched cows graze, their tongue can go out and just grip the actual plants that they want to consume. The inside of their lips have like these little suction cups on them so they can pull and exactly what they want. And it's amazing to watch them go through a pasture and select the food that they desire. That was definitely a self-indulgent experience. I'm not going to lie. But most of the food we give away. We were selling it to the dining services, but now we've transitioned to a point where a lot of the food, because of some changes we made, a lot of the food goes in the emergency food relief system, goes to Mother Hubbard's Cupboard. We donated to the People's Market Open Pantry and to the Crimson Cupboard, which is the food pantry here on the Bloomington campus. So our goals are still to educate students. It's to educate the public, to hold workshops with the community. It's to do research, anything from growing indigo for a fine arts professor to doing research on tomato production and different types of mulching systems. Unfortunately, we shut down a little prematurely in the fall because of some funding challenges, but the beauty with farming is essentially you get endless chances. And so we'll be back next year, and I think it's going to be more student-focused farm, and where the students, hopefully they will get to make more choices, have more power, make more mistakes, because that's how we learn. It's through the mistakes. We honestly learn more from those than we do the success, our successful experiences. So why a liberal arts approach to food? And I think the answer you just saw in the presentation, that IU and other places like us need to be engaged in this conversation, because every single person here, every single student is engaged in what Wendell Berry calls an agricultural act. Wendell Berry, the great writer from Port Royal, Kentucky. But this is something that we are all engaged with, even if we live in the most densely populated city in the middle of Brooklyn to, anywhere in the mountains of Montana. Food is a critical piece, and agriculture is a critical piece to all our experience. So that's what I have. I would love to ask or answer questions and hear from you all.
James, I'm gonna do a point of privilege and actually ask a question right off, because and a comment. My comment is I got the chance to facilitate a couple of retreats with James and his sustainability gang, and the level they were talking about and what we were able to accomplish. These were his colleagues and students, and it was amazing to see. And I feel like we're in good hands. And great presentation, James. But question is those food services that you see, HelloFresh and all those that are sending out food all over, preparing it. I look at that and see the quantity of waste that comes with it, ice packs, all these packaging, stuff like that. And just recently, I started a food service myself, not started, I mean, I'm starting to use one called Lost Farm, fully local. They source from local stuff, vendors and stuff like that. And you send your containers back. They don't use any packaging. They just put it in a cooler on your porch. Is that a future you're seeing for a lot of kind of food production in the system?
I think that it depends upon the geographic location. I think some people are, I mean, some of those businesses will thrive. I don't expect, like, if I was just to, take a shot in the dark and guess, I would say most of them won't. I think some of it is just a pretty trendy experience. It's a marketing system. But obviously some of them may persist. And if you're, in the larger cities, I could see that being more of a viable option than maybe in like places like Bloomington or Terre Haute.
So I have a two-part question.
Okay.
One is, how do you recommend people participate in the local food systems when they may not have the funding or capacity to do so as easily? Because like, I love the farmer's market. I can buy like one thing because I'm a poor broke college student.
Yeah.
And then the second part of that is, how do you recommend people participate outside of just like purchasing, but how do they get involved in the literacy and all of these different parts of the system to make sure that their community is having a healthy food system that is hopefully becoming more and more local?
Okay, you're gonna have to remind me of these questions, make sure I get them right. But so your first question, I think there are actually options. So the People's Market is a new market that came out of the protest at the downtown farmers market like 3 years ago. But the People's Market give food away all the time, particularly to people in need. And it's food that's produced by local farmers. They're at a new location off of East 3rd and Woodcrest. Say it again. First United Church, right behind there's an optometrist and IU Health Clinic there. So I would say, that's on Saturday mornings. And so the food, you have a lot of food options there. Secondly, I would say if you get out of Bloomington, the price is going to be a little bit different. So take a trip to Spencer, Indiana, or Nashville, Indiana. And the really cool towns, great farms, great farmers. And so those are maybe more aligned up with your budget. I would also say there's ways to get engaged, like at the campus farm. And I just tell the students every time you come, take food, just like take it. I'm serious. I'm like, you can't leave here without taking food with you. And I remember when the business management, they said, well, you can't be giving away food. I'm like, I'm not going to let it rot. And what do you think the headline will be in the Herald Times if I say we weren't allowed to give away the food that was going to rot in the fields? And so they're like, okay, they quit giving me grief. So yeah, come, if you got spare time, come to the campus farm and we'll hook you up with food. So yeah, I think we're going to jump back here and I'll come back. Okay.
So I wondered how many acres you have, and do you do things like composting and other innovative ways to produce your produce?
So we farm, it's about 2 acres of like ground that's actually tilled and planted. And if you want to come out sometime, I'd love to give you a tour of, it's at the Hinkle Garden Farmstead. We lease the acreage off of them, which they're great to work with. We do compost there, but we don't compost on a level necessary for what we need. When we order compost, usually about 80,000 pounds at a time. One fall, we brought in 600,000 pounds of compost because that land was actually supposed to get commercially developed. So they stripped the topsoil off. And so we've had to do a lot of land remediation, which is part of the fun with that spot. But we just don't have enough composting there to do that. But we do engage in what we call regenerative agriculture. We do a lot of cover cropping to rebuild soils. But I would love to give you all a tour if you ever want to do a visit to the campus farm. Let's see those. Oh, you want me to check online? Anybody online have a question?
Yes, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. You just said that we could come and take a tour. How? How does one arrange that?
Well, you just email me directly, jafarmer@iu.edu. That's fortunate to have the same email address since 1995, but jafarmer@iu.edu. Send me an email. We'll set something up. I think probably we can look at late March or April. It'd probably be a little bit better. It's kind of boring there right now, to be honest. But yeah, would love to bring you out. You can also call my office. It's 812-856-0969. Either one, just get in touch with me and we'll set something up. I'd love to give you a tour and talk and visit out there at the farm.
So are you year round?
Yeah, so I'm on faculty, so I mean this is my day job, but I work there and I'm work with the students all through the summer and so we'll start planting probably in late February, and then it'll run through the end of next October.
This is a comment more than a question. With a question, I went to my seminary reunion at Princeton this summer and found out that they have a farm associated with the seminary. It's called the Farminary. And the students at the seminary are just standing in line to go to the farm and learn rather than study New Testament, Hebrew and stuff like that. Why are young people so interested in this topic? That's my question.
So I believe what we're seeing with the interest in young people and people of all generations is they realize that the food is part of like the social consciousness that's being awoken and thinking about where our food comes from and the food, having control over the food system. And so you're not just reliant on 3 large corporations having absolute control over the food that you eat. I think they see the environmental justice, the social justice issues tied into the food system. So I think it's across the board. And I think in a lot of ways I can totally understand why people in seminary school find this as a important piece of their work. I mean, you can look all throughout Scripture, and the importance of agriculture is woven in there. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Thank you so much. That was absolutely fantastic. I think that we should do a Rotary trip out there. And yeah. So we'll do that sometime in the spring. So next week we're going to be meeting here again and online. Excuse me, not online. Thank you. I meant to start off by apologizing to everybody online to say that we're not going to be meeting online, and then it went into automatic control. So my apologies. Next week we will be here in the Georgian room. So please come and join us here. Peggy is reminding me that you've all got letters either in the mail or to be picked up from Natalie here as a continuation of Giving Tuesday. And next week we have this FBI dude coming in. Sounds really, really fascinating. Thank you, Michael, for coordinating this. It's called A Conversation with the FBI. He's the Joseph McDonald is the supervisory senior resident agent in this area. So everybody on their best behavior. Okay, good. Well, with that, let's do our 4-way plus 1 test. And of the things we think, say, or do, first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And fifth, is it fun? Thank you. Have a very fun week, everybody.